Hello, welcome back guys. I've been asked to do a couple of updates on the cockpit just to see what's happened since the last time I saw you. I should do later on a full flight video showing the cockpit fully built and in use, but I thought for the first one I'd just give you an insight as to what's inside the cockpit and what it takes to build one of these things. As I mentioned in my previous video, this is a cockpit that's modular, so that it can be taken down after use. And at the moment I've just got the main panel mounted on the desk, so I can show you what's going on inside that. And the other ones are the other models are pretty much the same in as much as what's wired up and what I'm using to interface with the computer on the inside. So you're going to have to excuse the hand from being a little bit shaky. I'm going to have to do this handheld so I can move around a bit. On the left hand side you can see a standard Saitek Yoke unit, which if I move a bit closer you can see mounted on the inside. And that's literally just bolted to a piece of MDF at the bottom, and the black lead out the back to the USB. So that is pretty much a standard Saitek yoke. Now on the inside you can see a mess of wires, and it looks a lot more complicated than it is. In fact, I've got 4 of these little interface boards which are bought from a company called Bodnar, and this board is what they call the BBI-32. It basically gives you 32 connections to your switches, and then the output goes out to a standard USB, and I've got 4 of those in this unit. You can actually get BBI-64s, which would have enabled me just to have the 2, but I wanted the 4 because it's spread out across the length of the unit. It's quite a long unit. It enabled me to have shorter wiring going to each board. And basically all you've got there is a standard switch mounted on the front of the board, say something like these micro switches here, which is standard micro switches bought off eBay, and then 2 wires out off the back of that switch goes to 2 connections on the BBI-32. Pretty simple. Every switch is the same. 2 connections for each switch, other than the knobs here that control the COM and nav and etc. These are called rotary encoders, and they actually have 3/5 connections. Basically, if you turn the knob one way, it sends a pulse out across 2 of those connections, and if you turn the knob in the opposite direction, it sends a pulse out on the other 2 connections, the centre one being a common connection. But it's fairly easy to wire up. Various little bits and pieces that I've had to build myself, like this landing gear switch. That was built by me. This here is a bit of aluminium plate, and I've got an aluminium piece of aluminium there to actually be the control knob, and that just operates the standard lever switch. Again, 2 connections out to the back of onto the BBI-32. So, and then across the whole panel you've got a variety of those switches, all effectively wired up the same. You've got occasional switch like this one, which is basically a multi-position switch. So that would have you've got off, centre, and an on over that side. So you're going to have more connections for that. But effectively, each circuit is wired to the BBI-32 using 2 of those connections on the BBI-32 that go out to the USB. As you can see, you've got the left hand of the black wires there is the USB coming out of the Saitek unit, and then you've got the 4 USB outputs off the BBI-32s that plug into a USB hub at the back of the desk. Now the whole unit was built really around the desk. The desk just happened to be at the right height that I needed, so I built this main panel to sit directly on the desk, and it's actually supported underneath by this little keyboard drawer, and there's blocks underneath the panel which sits on top of that keyboard, and that gives it a bit of support. And the extra unit or module that I have sitting on the front, which is the throttle and such, that gives it a bit of extra support, because that's that clamps onto this part of the keyboard drawer. So it's all quite solid. I mean, it's quite solid now, even without that, but it all makes it quite solid once it's sitting on the desk. As you can see, the main screens are missing at the moment, and they literally just slot into this position on the front there. The screen slots into this there, and then that bit I've just taken off, it slots on the top and holds it all together. And then that's wired up again to USB out the back, 2 of those. Now the rest of the main unit, as you might be able to see from that, is literally a bit of twin wall roofing plastic, and I did that to make it light so that it's easy enough to manoeuvre once I want to break the whole thing down. So the whole of this main panel here, the fascia is all of this roofing material to make it light. These side panels of roof are actually wood, because I needed a bit of strength when I'm handling it. So I've got the bottom in MDF, the sides in MDF, and that gives it enough stability for me to be able to keep lifting it on and off the desk without any damage or anything. These back panels, again, roofing material, they're just sprayed on the back, saving a little bit of extra weight. And obviously the MDF around the side is just covered with this leatherette material, just to give it a nice overall look at the end. As I said in my previous video, although as you can see from the moment it hardly looks like a cockpit, but I can actually build this cockpit in a space of about 15 to 20 minutes, putting all the modules together and getting all plugged in and ready to go. I'll do another video a little bit later on showing the cockpit being assembled from start to finish, and that'll give you an idea of how you might want to do the same. You know, if you want to build a modular cockpit, if you haven't got the room to keep one up permanently, this modular idea works really well. A couple of updates I've done since I spoke to you last time. I now have a working system to get all the checklists up on screen, to tick all those off, so we can go through a full checklist at the start of the flight. And also I've got incorporated a light to show that the parking brake is on, which I didn't have before, and I had to rely on FSX to show me whether the parking brake was on or not. So now I've got light for that, which is again as in the real cockpit. Actually sits, the light's actually up on the little autopilot module which sits on the top of the cockpit. So that's just a couple of updates I've done. Literally everything that I need to work on the cockpit works as in real life, other than, as I said before, this GCU panel here, which doesn't work as in the real thing, because I've utilised that for other things, speaking to ATC and various things like that. But there you are. It's I say it took about a year to build. Not difficult if you've got a little bit of handyman skills. And I literally started off with the desk, made a cardboard module the same size as this to make sure it all fitted okay. and then pretty much designed it as I went along. I didn't do any fancy plans at the start or anything. I just sort of launched out. First of all, I made the autopilot module, yeah, I literally designed it as I went along, and it all came together quite nicely. So I'll finish the video there, and I will do some more updates showing, as I say, one showing the module being assembled, and then I will do a flight video showing it in use once we're ready to go. I've sort of held off doing that because there's so many flight videos of blokes sitting in their cockpits that I thought it might be a bit boring, but I've asked to show it in action, so I will make a video showing that a little bit later on. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and hope it inspires you to make your own sometime.